Hello, my name is Emily Blurton and I am an anaesthetic fellow currently working at Queen's Hospital Blurton, which is part of the University Hospitals of Derby and Burton NHS Trust. I am currently at the completion stage of the Associate Principal Investigator scheme, and as such I have been asked to talk to you all about the scheme, what it is, how it works, the benefits to yourselves as you progress in your medical careers, and how to get involved. I have structured this presentation to cover the following areas. So hopefully over the next 15 to 20 minutes, I will aim to cover the following. An overview of what the Associate Principal Investigator scheme is, the specific aims of the scheme as outlined by the National Institute of Health Research, or NIHR, and the reasons for its development, the healthcare professionals the scheme is designed for, the benefits of enrolling onto the Associate Principal Investigator scheme, and I will then move on to talk about how you yourselves can get involved in the scheme at your hospital, and then talk in detail about what to expect once enrolled. The Associate Principal Investigator scheme, or API scheme, was designed to provide healthcare practitioners with the opportunity to learn the role of a principal investigator, or PI. It is carried out as on-the-job learning, or learning at the seat of the master, by working closely with the principal investigator over a 6-month period, observing what they do as part of their role and responsibilities, and working closely with them and other members of the research team in the delivery and conduct of a clinical research trial. Upon completion of the scheme, enrolled individuals will receive Associate Principal Investigator status. The scheme itself is run through the National Institute for Health Research, and upon completion of the scheme, the achievement of Associate Principal Investigator status is awarded, which is recognised as evidence of having actively participated in an NIHR research trial. It was first launched in February 2019, and since then it has continued to expand to include numerous clinical trials and many different medical and healthcare associated specialties. The aims of the Associate Principal Investigator scheme are to develop the principal investigators of the future, but also to aid in the delivery and running of current research trials at local sites. This is with a view to participants in the scheme gaining the skills and the confidence at an associate level in conducting trials, such that they will in the future be able to act as a PI. There is also often a benefit to the trial itself, particularly in recruitment and uptake due to the addition of the Associate PI working towards achievable monthly goals. So why develop this programme? Well, often involvement in research is evidenced by an individual's name being included as one of the authors, or often as a junior doctor, involvement at the hospital site level is often evidenced through either certificates of recruiting into a trial or via a letter of evidence. Though these are still forms of evidence, the Associate Principal Investigator scheme recognises that the individual involved has spent a 6-month period assisting with the delivery of a clinical trial at a hospital site. It also provides a structure to the learning process through which it acts to encourage involvement in research, where some may feel initially hesitant about doing so. Healthcare professionals from across various disciplines are eligible to enrol. This is reflected in the fact that numerous medical and healthcare bodies now endorse the Associate PI scheme. More relevant to yourselves is the fact that as junior doctors you are eligible. The way the course is run through its online learning platform does enable you to interact with other individuals from an array of professional experience and backgrounds, which is just one of the additional advantages of the scheme. Now, if you are new to research, then this scheme can serve as a good grounding for an introduction to conducting clinical research, whilst the scheme itself is also able to cater for those who have previously had some involvement but would like to add recognised attainment of research skills to their research CV. One thing I think is important to mention, that if you have a part of your job role is or does have a research component to it, then unfortunately you wouldn't be eligible for the Associate Principal Investigator scheme. As mentioned on the previous slide, the scheme is recognised and endorsed by many of the Royal Colleges. The ones relevant to yourselves I have included here. So as you can see, these include the Royal College of Anaesthetists, the Faculty of Intensive Care Medicine, the Royal College of Physicians, the Royal College of Surgeons of England, and the Royal College of Emergency Medicine. As a subset to these Royal College endorsements, the clinical trials that are registered to the Associate Principal Investigator scheme are also designated and associated with certain medical and certain surgical subspecialties. So some examples would be anaesthesia, perioperative medicine and pain management, critical care, genetics, metabolic and endocrine disorders, surgery and trauma and emergency care. Here I have included just a small sample of the trials which are registered with the scheme. There are many, many more. At the end of my slides, I have included web addresses for the NIHR's website, where you can find a full list of all clinical trials currently registered to the scheme. These four here are the ones that are probably most closely aligned to your practice in either anaesthesia, intensive care medicine or acute medicine. They are the recovery trial, which I'm sure all of you will already be aware of, the UK ROCKS trial, which is the intensive care unit randomised trial comparing two approaches to oxygen therapy. This is the trial that I have been Associate PI for at my hospital site. There is also FLOELA, Fluid Optimisation in Emergency Laparotomy, and REMAP-CAP, Randomised Embedded Multifactorial Adaptive Platform Trial for Community-Acquired Pneumonia. One thing that is important to note is that if any of these trials are not currently being conducted at your hospital site, then please do not worry. Part of the Associate Principal Investigator scheme can include the setup of a trial at your local site. For my part, the UK ROCKS trial had already been established for a few months. I was therefore not involved in the setup. However, I think this would have been a fantastic learning opportunity for me to have been involved in as part of my 6 months. Similarly, if there is a study ongoing at your hospital site that is not in the scheme, then there are details on the NIHR website which outlines the process and the criteria that need to be met in order for a clinical trial to be registered with the Associate Principal Investigator scheme. Why should you get involved then? Well, there are a number of reasons to do so. It enables both a good and sound introduction into the running and delivery of a clinical trial. This includes the responsibilities of the Associate Principal Investigator and the Principal Investigator, how the research team works together, both locally and centrally, as well as direct interaction with the way that processes are followed to ensure high quality research is conducted. It does this by providing a structured approach. Upon completion of the scheme, certification of Associate Principal Investigator status will be achieved. The National Institute of Health Research actively encourages the central trial team to acknowledge associate principal investigators who are registered to their trial as collaborators in the appendices of subsequent publication. From a training portfolio perspective, it will fulfil involvement in research requirements, as well as provide you with additional leadership and management skills which are transferable. And lastly, getting involved in research can be fun and engaging, especially as you are directly part of the local site research team instead of feeling on the outside looking in. So after all that, how do you actually become involved in the scheme? The application itself is relatively straightforward and is completed via an online form, the link to which can be found on the NIHR website. Once this form is submitted, it will then be sent to the principal investigator at your site, as well as the associate principal investigator team, who will sign it off, and then you're good to go. Prior to this step, finding a registered study needs to be done. I would suggest that there are several ways in which you can do this. The NIHR website is a good place to start. As mentioned before, there is a link on their website to all clinical trials currently registered to the scheme. Looking at individual trial websites will also give you a list of all the local hospital sites currently conducting the study. At your hospitals, I would suggest either finding out if there is a designated consultant lead for research in your department, or if some of the trials that I have already mentioned are being run at your site, then speak to the principal investigator directly. Your Trust's Research and Development Department would also be another good port of call. They will be aware of all clinical trials running in your trust and should be able to put you in contact with the principal investigator for trials registered to the Associate PI scheme. Please note that if you wish to register a trial or set up an already registered one at your hospital, then this will require a few extra steps, the information of which is easily accessible on the NIHR website. I've tried over the next 3 slides to summarise what to expect. I have used a lot of my own experience to try and inform these slides. This list is by no means exhaustive, but I hope that I've captured the gist of it. Firstly, it requires a time commitment of 6 months to complete, so this will need to be factored in. During your 6 months, you will be expected to recruit patients into your trial that you are registered to. And depending on the trial itself, and in discussion with your principal investigator, to consent to the trial as well. An agreed target will need to be set with the principal investigator. Within the first month, you will need to complete good clinical practice training, which will provide you with the knowledge and the standards required in order to conduct high quality clinical research. Some of you may already have this. It is expected that you will disseminate information regarding the trial to other stakeholders via presentation at some point during the 6 months. Again, dependent on the trial, this may vary on who those stakeholders are. As a minimum, you will be expected to attend a monthly meeting with your principal investigator to discuss trial-related issues. This can be more frequent if required. You'll be tasked with reviewing and updating the site file with the principal investigator and ensuring that all standards for conducting the research continue to be met. This also includes enacting and disseminating any protocol changes. As you move through the scheme, you will begin, in certain circumstances, to deputise for your principal investigator. One example would be a situation where you may sit in for them at trial management group meetings. You will also be given access to the National Institute of Health Research's learning platform, which is called NIHR Learn. Through this, you will be able to keep up to date with your monthly learning goals You will also be encouraged to complete online journal entries relating to your experiences and activities each month. This acts as further evidence as well for participation in the scheme. It is also through the NIHR Learn that you can contact and chat with others in the scheme. This slide I have split into two areas: the time spent both during my working hours and time spent out of work in my own time. During work, Associate PI commitments related to the day-to-day running of the trial itself, such as site file management or attending trial meetings, etc. Whereas out of work, this was the time where the NIHR Learn was completed. The only additional thing that I will say is that at some times the NIHR Learn platform seemed a little bit clunky, but I eventually managed to navigate my way around it. From my time as part of the Associate PI scheme, on this slide I've put a few takeaway points that I think you may find helpful. I found participating in the scheme to be an enjoyable experience. My previous experience of clinical research had always been on the fringes, and I never felt fully involved. The guidance and structure of this scheme really enabled me to experience the conduct of and delivery of research in a meaningful way, which allowed me to see the clinical and personal benefits of being involved in clinical research. This has subsequently given me the confidence to continue to be involved in research and to do so as I progress through my career. And it no longer seems as daunting as it once did. Organisation and time management really was key. Often I found myself having to liaise with multiple people as well as rota coordinators to ensure that I was available to attend meetings and also to find time to carry out Associate PI tasks and responsibilities. However, these are skills that need nurturing as we all progress towards the end of our training and our CCT. I therefore found these very, very useful, and I actually noticed a change from a more junior team member role to one with more responsibilities that existed outside my specialty training role. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation. I hope that you now understand a little bit more about what the Associate Principal Investigator scheme is all about, and that hopefully many of you will be interested in enrolling and participating in clinical research at your local hospitals. Here, on this slide, I have left some useful links to point you to further information on the scheme, including 2 links to the NIHR web pages. The YouTube link is also quite nice to have a look at. You will also see the email address for the Associate PI team, who are very helpful with any queries that you may have. I have also included my work email at the bottom for anyone who wishes to contact me directly about any questions that you may have. Thank you once again for listening. Bye-bye.